touchdown.
We hit a home run.
WHPC Sports Talk, nominated for Best Sports Talk Program in the 2023 Intercollegiate Broadcasting System Awards. Listen weekday afternoons at 4, plus Monday mornings at 9 and Tuesday evenings at 11.
The voice of Nassau Community College.
This is the award-winning 90.3 WHPC HD Garden City.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Play WHPC.
And available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeart, and on the WHPC app.
90.3 WHPC.
Down the left field line, is it enough? Gone! There it is! 62! Touch first, Mark! You are the new single-season home run king!
I'm not paid to be a role model. I'm paid to wreak havoc on the basketball court.
Here's the pass to Leitner. Puts it up. Yes! Is it the shoe?
I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been.
One of the world's most talented athletes is retiring. It is true what somebody said today. There was Babe Ruth and Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky.
Gretzky in front, saved by Flaherty. The rebound, score!
Favre just threw it perfectly right over him to Kory David. Only Brett Favre could do that. I don't care what you say.
This is WHPC Sports Talk on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Game on! Game on!
Well, guess what? Steve Cohen signed Carlos Correa in the middle of the night, right away from the San Francisco Giants. And now we are seeing the true power of this man, the richest man in the sport. And he said it, and I believe it, and we said it prior to this happening. This is the thing that puts him over the top. With everything that they did in this offseason, you still looked at the Phillies, you still looked at the Braves, and said, man, those teams are really, really good. Carlos Correa in the fold now? Woo!
How about the Knicks, winners of 8 straight, and they beat the Warriors on their home floor for the first time since February of 2013. 10 seasons.
But aside from that, nothing really happened in the last 24 hours in New York sports, did it? Pretty uneventful. Welcome into the midweek Wednesday edition of WHPC Sports Talk on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. It is Joshua Umahi joined by Ross Levine and Kory David. I mean, we played that Boomer and Gio clip. Gio pretty much summed it up. Woo! How about the New York Mets and Steve Cohen pulling a rabbit out of the hat and getting Carlos Correa away from the San Francisco Giants?
Making money moves. At night. At night.
In the middle of the night?
Yeah. I mean,
deep in the night.
Deep in the night. Like 2 in the morning, basically. I mean, I was thinking, I was like, yeah, he's a Giant. Yeah, he's there. But I guess his physical just fell apart. And, yeah, he went to the Mets. That might be the most surprising signing of the whole winter.
Oh, by far. And we'll get into all the details, all the layers, everything that you can possibly think of. Carlos Correa, the storyline of him spurging the Giants, the physicals, whatever, and heading to the New York Mets. Also, the New York Knicks have won 8 straight. I don't know if y'all heard yesterday or heard the start of the show, but they did beat the defending champs at Madison Square Garden last night for their 8th straight win. And it's Wednesday, so we'll give our State of the Giants report, the midweek report of the New York Giants. Kory, Ross in the building. But let's get into it. Let's get right into it. Like Ross said, we're middle of the night. I mean, I'm waking up to this stuff. I'm looking at my phone. At first, I thought it was like one of those troll, because you see these troll posts on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook all the time. Like, there's no way that Carlos Correa. Yeah, we heard that we didn't hear that he failed the physical at first. Actually, we heard that the Giants had postponed his press conference first, and then we heard about the physical after, and then before you know it, all in the span of 24 hours, Carlos Correa is a New York Met. Let me pull up the exact numbers here. It's 2 years.
12.
2 years, excuse me.
Add that one. Right.
It's 12 years and what, $250 million?
12 years, $315 million.
$350 million. 12 years, $315 million for Carlos Correa. Yeah, calling it 215 will be selling a Steve Cohen short. But what can you say? Obviously, there are going to be some Mets fans that aren't as excited as the rest of us. There are going to be some that say, we have to check the physicals. We're not sure about this. He did fail a physical from the San Francisco Giants. Who's to know he won't fail a physical or hold up physically with the New York Mets? Well, you can say that, but when you really look at the deal and look at what this deal means, I'm going to focus on what this deal means. Because let's focus on what Steve Cohen has done so far this year. He starts with Verlander after he loses DeGrom. He goes out and signs Kodai Senga. He gets Jose Quintana. That's the rotation. He bolstered the rotation. You go out and you sign David Robertson for 1 year, $10 million. You go out and trade for Raley from the Tampa Bay Rays. You finally get that lefty reliever. You re-sign Brandon Nimmo. You re-sign Edwin Diaz. You're pretty much just marking off your checklist, and we want to call the Steve Cohen the Santa Claus of the New York Mets. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's got a list. He's checking it like boom, 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 boom. But the one thing he didn't have yet was the impact bat. I mean, Ross, we talked about it back and forth. Like, the one thing about this Mets team, yeah, they had I'm not going to call it a great offense. They had a good offense last year. But what really held them back, apart from the Braves and the Dodgers and the Phillies who made it to the World Series, Braves had Ronald Acuna Jr., among others. Dodgers had Freddie Freeman. Their lineup is stacked. Mookie Betts, Phillies, Bryce Harper, all those guys. Like, the Mets didn't have that one impact guy that a pitcher can definitely say they're terrified to pitch to.
Yeah, and their best power bat was obviously Alonso.
Yeah, and their best bat overall, I'd say Lindor.
Right, Lindor. Those were the Lindor was their second most home runs on the team, second most power bat, which is good for Lindor that he hit 26 home runs. But that's not what you want in the sense of him being the second best on your roster. And not saying Correa is a guy that's going to even hit 30-something home runs, but he is a guy that's going to get on base. He's a very good average hitter. He will hit you 20 home runs a year. And, listen, the one thing I'm wondering with Correa is his position has always been shortstop. Yeah. Now he's playing third. So, and I think this is like the first time they're going to move him over to third. So, how is he going to adjust to that? I think he'll adjust pretty well, but you never know. Third base is different than shortstop, a longer range. And what happens now with Escobar? Because, he signed last year. He had that red-hot September, and he was probably their best hitter. And now that you have Correa, what do you do with Escobar? Because now it's because think about it, you have Brett Beatty, who played as he just came up. You saw some flashes, but most of it was kind of a struggle. And now you have Correa that's playing third. So unless Beatty starts in the minors and Escobar is the DH, like what do you do with that? Because that's kind of a traffic third base place because you have three guys for that one spot. Obviously, Correa's going to win it, but
you got to remember too. I mean, Brett Beatty, he does have some experience in left field. You still have Mark Canha. I know they tried the Canha Naquin platoon last year. I mean, that's cool, I guess. I don't know, and we never know with Steve Cohen. Like, is he done for real? Because you brought up Correa, you still have Escobar. Who knows where he fits into? And now you have. Listen, Steve Cohen has done everything a Mets fan could ask for in free agency. Now it's time to make some trades. Because like you said, there's too many log jams at too many important positions.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about guys like McCann, we know is going to be on the move.
Yeah, he'll be gone.
We talk about maybe a Carlos Carrasco if they want to get a younger arm like Peterson or McGill in the rotation as your fifth starter.
They really want to move Carrasco to shed the payroll. That's really the main reason.
That too.
Yeah, that's more the reason. I don't think it has anything to do with Carrasco the way he pitched at the end of last year. It's more because of payroll. And listen, Peterson was very good for them last year. Aside from that awful start against the Cubs, he was like really good. And he's definitely somebody that could maybe become a fourth starter one day. And, It's interesting. They don't have a lot in their farm system with the pitching. They actually are very interested in the White Sox closer, Liam Hendricks.
I was just about to go there.
Yeah, he's very good. Very good.
We're talking about trades like Hendricks. And again, he's the closer there. And obviously, Edwin Diaz is the closer with the New York Mets.
Yeah, he won't be closing with the Mets.
He won't be closing with the Mets, but that's a hell of an eighth inning guy.
And you have Robertson.
You have Robertson, and then you have Raley, and then you just brought back Ottavino.
Which I like that signing.
Ottavino, this guy you were asking him to be your 8th inning guy. Now he's going to be a situational guy, maybe 7th inning guy? Like that's, I can't believe what I'm saying right now as a Mets fan. And Mets fans, definitely want to hear from you today. 516-572-7440. But I can't believe I'm saying this because I dealt with the Wilpons growing up. I remember being 10, 11, 12 years old, just, I couldn't believe some of the stuff that these Wilpons were doing. The coupons, as I like to call them. Just, once upon a time, the Mets hallmark signing was Jason Bay.
Oh yeah, it was awful. Scott Hairston, those guys. I mean, name it. That's Scott Hairston, Jason Bay. I mean, the list goes on. They used to pay a lot of money for Jerry's Familia. That was like their best reliever at one time. When they brought him back the second time.
Curtis Granderson, who was a good Met, but guys like that. We're not talking about those being like the piece de resistance signings for the New York Mets. Now we're talking Correa, Verlander, Kodai Senga from Japan, all in the same summer, among others.
Yeah, Senga's going to be interesting because you always hear these guys coming out of Japan, and obviously the way usually you pitch once a week sometimes, so that's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts. I think he will adjust fairly well, but their rotation, you can make a case is, I'm going to say it's neck and neck to the one they had last year, because again, Scherzer and Verlander, are going to be pretty good as long as they're healthy. They're going to get you 30 starts. Something that DeGrom couldn't do. Now you have Quintana, who was very good last year, especially with the Cardinals. He was very good. And, Senga, I think he has a very good upside. They have a very good rotation. I don't know if those guys are going to be better than what Chris Bassett gave a year ago, but I will say this. They're a deep team. Deep rotation, and if you really look at their rotation actually now, Pearson's actually, if Carrasco is still a Met, Pearson's like your 6th starter.
Yeah,
think about that. I mean that's and he can come out of the bullpen. I think he'll probably start in the minor just because of the numbers, but that's your situational starter, David Peterson. I mean, a guy that had a 3 ERA last year. That's insane, and their lineup is good too. That for the first time probably since they went to the World Series in 2015, I could actually say they have almost an elite lineup. First time since 2015 I could actually say that, because really outside of that year they never really had good lineups. I mean, let's be honest, 2016, even the year where they made it to the wild card round in 2016, that wasn't a great lineup. They didn't score a ton of runs, and then obviously, the last few years before last year, they were not a very good offensive team. This is a very good to an elite offensive team that should score a lot of runs, should give Verlander, give Scherzer a lot of run support. And again, if DeGrom was here, would they score runs for him? I don't know. But with these guys that are here right now, they're going to score runs for them.
The funny thing too, Ross, and for everybody that wants to criticize Steve Cohen today, because I'm already hearing people cry over the small market teams.
Those are Yankee fans, I think.
Yankee fans too. Like I had to listen to Chris Mad Dog Russo on like 5 different platforms today. Be like, "Oh, what Steve Cohen's doing is a disgrace." You know how he talks.
Michael K does it too.
Michael K. I mean, he's been doing it, and he tries to disguise it as like, "Oh, I respect Steve Cohen," but now we know what agenda you're trying to push. You're not fooling anybody. So
yeah,
I had to listen to the Mad Dog Russo be like, "Oh, the small market teams," and boo-hoo, cry me a river. Like if you really want to win, spend the money or show your fan base you willing to do anything possible, like Steve Cohen is doing with the Mets to win. I mean, there's one owner in particular, the Cincinnati Reds owner. I think his net worth might be $400 million.
Yeah,
that's Steve Cohen spent more than that in one summer. So winter.
Yeah, the only thing I ever agreed with Mad Dog and with Michael Kay on when it comes to the Mets was when DeGrom left. When DeGrom left and he went to Texas and he had that awful press conference, I agreed with them with that. 'Cause that
By
was
the way,
embarrassing.
how is there no thank you Mets fans or good memories? How is there nothing from Jacob DeGrom? Do you hate the Mets that much?
I love when he says at the end, like, they're always going to be a place in my heart for the Mets. No, there's not, because you literally have said nothing about the Mets that were positive. You said Texas is more of a winning franchise than the Mets, which is ridiculous. Texas is not even close. The Mets are on their way. And, yeah, okay, you have Bruce Bochy because they won 3 championships. But I'm sorry, Bruce Bochy was surprised they got you. I mean, like, there's no I don't know where DeGrom's coming from. I don't think he's going to be very healthy anyway. So, and I don't think Texas is going to be very good. So I don't really care what DeGrom does. He could actually, I'm going to go as far as saying this. He could have 13 starts because he'll get hurt, and he'll have like a 1.90 or a 2.3 ERA, and he'll be on like an 80 win team. I'm telling you, he'll be a great pitcher for a 500 team. I don't care.
Yeah, he's a loser. But we hope this caller is a winner. Caller, you're on WHPC Sports Talk. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? Frankie from Flushing. How's everybody doing?
What's up, Frankie? We're good.
Good. First, with Texas, DeGrom could win 31 games for them. And I don't care who their manager is. They're not winning. They're not getting past Houston. You know, Texas just wasted a lot of money as far as I'm concerned. But getting back to Mad Dog Russo, you know, this is a guy who's angry because, you know, the Yankees swiped, you know, Rodon from their rotation. They thought they had Judge in their grasp, and the Yankees pulled him back in. And then the Mets just stole Correa from him. So Russo's a big Giants fan, and New York has basically fleeced the Giants.
Yeah, San Francisco's having a rough winter. They're
having a hard time. They got a lot of money to throw around. They just can't give it away there. Nobody wants it.
It's tough. I don't know what to tell them. That's tough.
And as far as the Mets go, like, you know, I mean, I'm all for spending money. I'm a Yankees fan, and listen, I had to hear all the Mets fans growing up as a kid how George Steinbrenner bought this and bought that. And I mean, I'd like an apology from all my friends growing up over the years, because the Mets basically just out in 1 year they've outdone George Steinbrenner in his career. The Mets are just throwing money around like it's water. But I don't blame them. I'm a Yankee fan that says, hey, you know, if you want to put a winning team on the field and you want to spend $500 million to do it, you just better win. You know, the Yankees didn't win. When Steinbrenner threw all that money around in the 80s, Yankees didn't win one World Series. They didn't even get to a World Series, except for 81. And then Steinbrenner started throwing money around. Yankees had the winningest record of the 80s out of all Major League Baseball, never made it to the World Series. So if the Mets are going to do this now and throw all this money around, they better hope to God they win a World Series soon, because their fans will turn on them again.
Hey, Frankie, you're right about one thing. I mean, you spend all that money. I don't think any Mets fan would disagree with the fact that you're saying it's World Series or bust. Like, you win 101 games last year. You go out in the wild card round. You spend $800 million in one offseason, all right? It's got to be World Series or bust. You've put yourself past, on paper, any other team in the National League, on paper. We'll see how it plays out when the games start, but there's no excuse for the Mets not to make some noise in the World Series this year.
Right, but, you know, the Yankees, on paper, back in the 80s, you looked at that lineup from 1 to 9, you know, it was like, and there was a 10-year, 15-year gap there, and they would just, you know, they just couldn't pull the trigger. On paper, they were great. The Mets, I mean, they're throwing all this money around. They got a lot of old guys, you know, Scherzer and Verlander, while they're excellent pitchers, I mean, they're at the end of their rope, and Correa's hurt, and you're going to put him out of position, you know, that he's not used to playing. I mean, they're spending good money, and there's, you know, waste. And I hope they didn't waste their money. That's all I got to say.
Hey, we'll see what happens. I mean, they obviously opted for the short-term approach, and Steve Cohen said, I want to win a championship in 5 years. So he's in his third year now. He's definitely putting his money where his mouth is. So, you know, as a Mets fan, we'll see what happens. He's definitely he's living in the spirit of George Steinbrenner, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and Correa, I mean, 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, man. That's a lot of time, man. You know, you're going to get stuck with a guy for 12 years.
I mean,
till the end of his career. I mean, it's not gonna long term. No bueno.
No, long term, definitely. I agree with you, and especially since he has already physical concerns.
I worry about that physical with the Mets. That's my one little tiny concern. If he passes it for a few years, he'll be great.
Yeah, it's a typical long-term baseball contract. Yeah.
He could always, you could, like you said before, Escobar could still play third, and Correa could DH. I mean, he's not your prototypical DH where he's going to hit 30 home runs, knocking 100 runs. He's a good fielder. He's a good hitter. I don't know if you want to waste a DH spot on him, but you can leave Escobar at third and, DH, and even spell Lindor at short. Correa could always give Lindor a break at short. You're replacing one excellent defensive shortstop with another.
Mm-hmm. Is definitely one thing I'll say about the Mets right now, and obviously there'll be still trades to be made, but they've got a lot of chess pieces right now. They've got a lot of pieces that can move around the board and give this guy a break, or put this guy at DH, give this guy time at third base, left field. Like, they got a lot going on, so still more to come.
Yeah, they won 101 games last year. I don't know how much you got to tweak that. I was really impressed with their year. They had a bad week. We had one bad week, and he unfortunately came at the wrong time of the year. But, I mean, they really didn't have to improve too much. Sometimes when you have too many of those star players like the Yankees had, sometimes it's those players. When the Yankees won in '96, they were really a bunch of nobodies, when their first World Series. They became somebodies. But, they didn't have that sexy lineup. They had a bunch of, young kids with a couple of veterans in there. So it's not always the superstar that's going to win you the World Series.
Hey, I'll say this. It's hard to tell a Mets fan that today, but it is a very leveled take, I'll give you that. Because we all know that names alone, like I'm an NBA fan. I've watched super teams get put together every year and they fail. They fall flat on their face. Right. So names just don't go out and win championships. I believe in Buck Showalter, though. I believe in Billy Epler until the trade deadline rolls around, Ross. But I do believe in what they have going on.
I believe in Showalter, too. I think he's a great manager. I was very upset when the Yankees let him go when they did. I think he's a real... All the teams that let him go, I mean, what are they thinking? This guy's an excellent manager. He's proven it across the board. Hey. So they have that going for them at least, So, all right, guys, listen, have a good day. Thanks for taking my call.
Always a pleasure, Frankie. Thank you.
Take care, guys. Bye.
It's a big day in baseball. Baseball fans, we want to hear from you. 516-572-7440. We're still talking about the Mets like a thief in the night making out with Carlos Correa.
I just hope he passes that physical.
It's funny because Steve Cohen, I think he put out a statement kind of confirming the deal, but he still has to pass the physical, though. So it's weird. You don't think an owner would do that and give him all that money right after he failed the physical. Yeah. But it all hinges on that. We'll see what the Mets doctors do. But it's, what I'll say about Steve Cohen, and I needed some pop music on this. For anybody that wants to criticize this guy, like we were talking about earlier, about actually putting his money where his mouth is, and yes, he's a Mets fan, but he's got the most money out of every Mets fan in the world by far. So people that want to kiss the small market team's ass and be like, oh no, it's unfair. Look at Cincinnati, look at Pittsburgh, look at Milwaukee, look at all these teams. Listen, I don't know what to tell you. It's always been like that.
And also, those teams lose. I mean, how many times do they lose? Now, part of it's because they don't spend, but I mean, they don't. The Pirates before 2012, 2013, they didn't make the playoffs for 20 years. I mean, they were embarrassing. And then they had those two wild cards, and then they just flopped. The Reds were good for a little bit of a stretch. And then they decided we're not going to spend money on Castellanos.
Exactly.
I mean, And they were like, yep, we're going to tank. And that's what they did.
You can't, if you want to defend small market teams, I guess, but you can't really say that the teams you just listed, Ross, and I can go off so many others that just, even last year, just completely tanked. Now we're not going to spend any money. We're going to disappoint our fan base. We're not even going to show them a willingness to compete. And our rebuild's going to take long because we don't have the prospects. The team I'm thinking about right now is the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah,
they're cheaper than cheap.
They're a fire sale. They were a fire sale. They got rid of every player that was good on that team. And, now they're they have out of all the teams, they probably have the longest way to go in terms of trying to win, because not only that they play in a dump of a stadium where there's barely any fans, but like you got rid of all your good players. I mean, who's really there left? I mean, the guy that was pretty good retired. Actually, that was their last good. Steven Vogt. That was the last guy, and he retired. So that just goes to show you, like they really like there's not really much you can do. And also, I mean, they're in the division with Houston. I mean, Houston's obviously the best team. They still are the best team right now. You know, and look, the American League as a whole is getting tougher. I mean, Toronto still is good. Orioles are getting better. You know, the Rays are always pretty. They always find a way to make it work. So there's like it doesn't get easy in the American League. And you know, Oakland felt like we're going to back out, and I think Boston's doing that too. Boston's probably backing out. I mean, they look.
Oh, Boston, give me a break. Like,
I don't feel bad for them. I'm just saying, like they lost. They're losing a lot of guys. I mean, I think they're going to lose Devers.
They're just like teams like that. Like they're showing you can't stick up for them while they're showing no willingness to compete. They don't even show their fan base a plan. Like the Red Sox fans don't know what the hell they're trying to get done. They have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing, though, and this is ever since the first thing they did, where it was like they were admitting to rebuilding when they moved on from Mookie Betts. That was it. That was the start of just saying, you know what, we're gonna reset. We're gonna not. I'm sure they're gonna want to win, but they're not trying as hard. I guess they're rebuilding, and that was it. That was the start of everything. I mean, they moved on from so many players, and you know, Bogarts is gone, Betts gone, some of the rotations all obviously gone. So it's listen, and also the Red Sox. To be fair, I mean, they did have a good run. They won the World Series in 2018. They won 3 championships in from 2000 to that point, and they probably look at it now as like, hey, we won our championships. Yeah, we're not going to be very good for a few years, but we'll probably get better at some point. So, and also Boston, every team wins there. The Red Sox could afford to lose a little bit. They're not. It's not like they're in desperate of being a dysfunctional franchise. I mean, they still have a good history. It's going to be tough right now because they're not very good.
Yeah, I mean, the point being, before we move on, like, my team has Steve Cohen. Yours doesn't. I'm sorry that's how it is, but it just is what it is. Like, it's okay. Don't cry. Wipe your tears. Get some Kleenex. Like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, baseball fans. But let me quickly go to the New York Yankees. They haven't done as much as the Mets this offseason, but Aaron Judge was introduced, obviously re-signing that 9-year, $360 million deal. He is officially named the Yankees captain.
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm not surprised he's back. I'm just the way things ended when he was obviously getting booed in the postseason. I'm surprised he just ignored that. I thought he would just be like, "Hey, I'm going to go to the Giants. That's where my favorite team was." But no, I think him being named the captain was the reason why he came back. I really do. I think that's my opinion. I think if he was not named the captain, I think he might have been gone.
The 16th captain in Yankees franchise history, obviously the first since Derek Jeter, and it's easy for Aaron Judge. Like if he leaves for San Francisco, he's putting pressure on himself. Yeah, he's going home, but you leave the Yankees for the Giants, you better produce and you better win.
But the one thing I'll say with the Giants though, and I mean they've had a very unlucky offseason, but I mean, why would players now want to go there? They have 3 championships since 2010 or since 2000. I mean, the Yankees haven't been to the World Series, and they've had obviously 1 championship since 2000, but they haven't been to a World Series since then. I mean, the Giants have had a lot more recent success, you could say, in terms of World Series than the Yankees have. So it's honestly surprising that nobody wants. I mean, Correa maybe that's an exception, but I Judge. Just, I don't blame him. You want to go back to the Yankees, but to me, it came down to being the captain, and that had a lot to do with it, I think.
Yeah, shout out to Aaron Judge. He's back with the Yankees, and they got Rodon, and Frankie brought it up. The San Francisco Giants. Maybe Gabe Kapler's just like an unlikable guy. Like, people don't like talking to him.
Well, the Phillies hated him.
Yeah,
Philly fans did not like him.
Maybe there's something there, maybe not, but the Giants have had some terrible luck this offseason.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll turn around for them, maybe not, but that'll close the book on baseball for today. Let me remind everybody that you're listening to WHPC Sports Talk on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Joshua Umahi joined by Ross Levine and Kory David. Let's talk some hoop. Let's go to the New York Knicks. Bing bong! Well,
Bing bong.
Yeah, the New York Knicks. Bing bong, they've won 8 straight games. They beat the Warriors. Again, no Steph Curry, no Andrew Wiggins, but they did beat the Warriors at home. Like I played in the intro, it was their first win against the Warriors since February 27th, 2013. That was when Steph Curry dropped 54 and lost in that one breakout game. But what can you say about this Knicks team? I mean, 8 straight wins. I remember after they lost that game to the Mavericks, I mean, we've talked about it. I remember I actually went back and checked. 2 weeks ago, we did a show talking about, should we trade Julius Randle? What should the Knicks do to shake up this roster? All of a sudden, they make some minor tweaks. Tibbs does to the rotation. They take out Cam Reddish. They take out Evan Fournier. They take out Derrick Rose. And Ross, you and I specifically had mad conversations about this. About Tibbs need to play the kids. I was screaming, play the kids. Play Grimes. Play McBride. Play Sims. Play these young guys. Play Cam Reddish, even though he's out of the rotation right now. But he stuck with Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, and it got them to 37 wins. Now, it's funny. It's almost kind of poetic because what Tibbs did to save his job was playing Grimes, McBride, Sims, putting those guys in the rotation.
Quickly got a good portion of minutes.
Quickly's getting minutes now. Like, it's funny. It's poetic. And there's nothing I love more than being right.
Yeah.
There's nothing I love more than, because I'm saying play the kids, and then playing the kids has us at 8 straight wins.
Quickly turned into prime Ray Allen out there.
He found the shot.
He shot 80. His 3-point percentage last night was 83.4. He only missed one. He only missed one shot. I mean, only missed one 3-pointer.
You read my mind, Kory, because that's exactly where I wanted to start with quickly in this game. He was obviously the standout guy off the bench. And they were winning before last night 7 straight games with him shooting like this.
You see, he's trending. He's trending on Twitter. They say he had a Jordan Poole moment. He said he saw Ice Spice. He said he saw Ice Spice in the building, and he just went off. People started saying we should have Ice Spice more at the games than Spike Lee.
I'm with that. I'm definitely with that. I'm not gonna.
Rapid Cameron just came out with a whole video said we don't need fans like you who be on the ground on your legs taking pictures of Steph Curry and
Yo, he was on his knees, bro.
He was on his knees taking pictures of Steph Curry. Like, it's crazy. It was wild.
Wild. But Emmanuel quickly did have that moment. Probably inspired by Ice Spice on court side, but. This is how they won 7 straight games before last night. These are quickly shooting totals. So they win against Cleveland. He goes 6 for 8. Atlanta 2 for 8. Charlotte 4 for 11. Sacramento 4 for 11. Chicago, the first Chicago game, 4 of 10. Second Chicago game, 1 of 12. And Indiana, that great comeback win they had, 2 of 8. So you go to last night. He's 6 of 10 from the field, 22 points. R.J. Barrett continues to drive in that third option role, 18 more points. Julius Randle. Go ahead, Kory.
Somebody got to stop shooting a 3. Stop trying to shoot. You're not a 3-point guy.
Just get to the cup.
It is. I know for some fans it got to be becoming frustrating because of the fact that you look at what he shot last night. I think he shot about 16%, or less.
1 of 6 on threes last night. R.J. Barrett.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. But he still had a solid game. He gave you 18 points. The thing I think that is the most contributing to these wins, I think, is the fact that I was against it early in the season. You solidified. You got a solid point guard who just when he don't need to be. He don't need to be like this, like John Moran or one of them guys. He just knows how to drive the ship. Just guide everybody.
Jalen Brunson, he saved my life. As a Knicks fan, sometimes I get a little down in the dumps. I'm a little, depressed. I've watched Alonzo Trier. I've watched guys like I like Pablo Prigioni, but I watched Raymond Felton towards the end of his Knicks tenure. I watched Elfrid Payton, bro. Elfrid Payton.
Yeah.
we got Jalen Brunson.
Yep, I'm balling like LeBron, son.
Shout out A Boogie. Listen, he's the guy in New York sports now. He's the point guard at Madison Square Garden that we've been begging for 20 years.
Look, it kind of makes losing the second round pick today not even matter.
I don't even tampering. If you're telling me we had to sacrifice the second round pick to get Jalen Brunson, I don't care who that kid's gonna be in that pick. Give me Jalen Brunson all day. Jalen Brunson's on an all-star trajectory. He's averaging 20 points per game, 6 assists. Julius Randle, I got to give him credit. He's also on an all-star trajectory. He's over 20 points, over 10 rebounds, sharing the ball well. He's bought into what the Knicks are really doing now, which was the main change from last year. Because last year they were either last or second to last in the league in pace. Pace is how often or how quickly you're getting shots up. Teams like the Warriors, Grizzlies, teams like that were obviously number 1, 2, 3 in the league. But the Knicks were 29th. Fast forward to this year. Earlier this year, they were up to around 20. Now they're at 16. Yeah. And with Brunson, and the guy I want to shout out is Quentin Grimes.
He's great, Quentin Grimes. He's probably one of my favorite players to watch.
Without question, he's every Knicks fan favorite player because he's really restored the feeling. And every time I watch him play, I think Allen Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Because the shooting, the defensive effort, the defensive tenacity, like he gets after it. He's a prototypical Knicks player. And I love what they've done here, getting those 2021 draft guys, Grimes, McBride, Sims in the rotation, because they are all defensive-oriented players. Get Evan Fournier out of my face. I'm sorry, Derrick Rose, but you're not the defender you used to be. Get me some guys that are going to get after it on the floor, dive on the floor for loose balls, get in guys' faces, get after the ball. Like, I want opposing players coming into Madison Square Garden every single night and being like, we got to go up against this team. Like, we got to go against those guys playing defense like that. Like, that's what I want. I don't want teams like no names all year coming into the Garden scoring career highs. Like, it's regular.
Well, that hasn't been happening lately. They've been great defensively, and also you could see the difference when Mitchell Robinson's out there. You could see it.
When he's out there and healthy.
When he's out there and healthy, you could just see the difference. And even Sims, who he's underratedly very good.
He had an okay game for just for the production that he's there for. He gave you 8 points, 7 rebounds.
I mean, for a second-round pick, I mean, the guy's, I think he's pretty much kind of a steal for where he was picked. I mean, the way think about it, he's a decent block. He doesn't have a lot of blocks, but you can tell his presence there, though.
He's very athletic.
He's athletic for a big guy. And let's be honest, at the very least, he's a guy that when Mitch Robinson's not out there, you at least have somebody there inside the paint, which there's times even the years prior where the Knicks were not good in the paint. So you at least have that, and they're still not a great 3-point shooting team, but what I do admire is that they don't take bad shots. They take a lot of good shots, which how many times did you see last year they would take fadeaway contested threes and
it was disgusting.
It was awful. Yeah, like no chance of it going in. And listen, I know people don't love Randall, but the guy's been much better, and he's also becoming. He's just making the path, letting them, like, how could I help in another way? Because if I'm not shooting well, at least he's not costing the team. He's passing to somebody else and allowing him to shoot the basketball. That's something that you didn't see last year.
Oh, without question. Julius Randle, in fact, every player on this team is definitely bought into what the philosophy is now. Get the ball up the court, let Jalen Brunson handle things, and you'll get good shots every single time. So yeah. I love everything the Knicks have going on right now. I know they have a tough game against the Toronto Raptors, who are down to 10th or 11th in the East.
Yeah.
And before I get to that game, I want to bring up that Quentin Grimes. He suffered that ankle injury when the Warriors' Ty Jerome got under his foot on the three-point attempt in the corner. He stayed in the game, but obviously sore ankles. They hurt a lot more the next morning, so he's doubtful for tonight. I can't overestimate how big of a loss that is, or I can't overstate it.
If they lost tonight, it's not the end of the world. It really is.
It's not because if they lose, I see it being a close game. I'm not going to cry if you lose a close game on a second night of a back-to-back to a Toronto team that always plays hard.
Third game in 4 nights.
Yeah, so it's going to be a tough game. Like you said, I don't care about wins and losses as much at this stage in the season because they've already shown me that the philosophy's changed and the culture's changed. This team is now back to what they were 2 years ago when it's defense first and Brunson, Brunson's been the big change offensively, but what this Knicks team needed to do to get back to quote-unquote contention is the defensive end, and they've done that, so I can't even be mad.
I think one of my favorite wins of the season, and I know it's against Indiana. That Indiana game, that was one of my favorite wins of the season because it did not look good, and I've seen so many Knicks teams in the past down 6 with 2 minutes left. Just, you know what? Not our night. We're just going to go after the next game. No, they won that game. They won that game, and they went after it. Brunson made the 3. He made the steal. And Julius Randle knocked down free throws, all the free throws. How many times have we seen Alec Burks or these other guys have, crucial free throws and they would miss them and they would lose? He made all the free throws, and the Knicks ended up winning that game. So that was a gritty win. And then the Warriors game, which I was nervous based off the first half, they just destroyed them in the second half. And I had no worries. I'm usually worried in the second half. I had no concerns. I had none.
You bring up that Pacers game, Ross. 11-2 run in the final 1 minute and 40 seconds of the game. They got it done. They stole that game. Jalen Brunson came up big as he always has this year. And I bring up the Raptors game tonight because of one reason. So Ian Begley reports, obviously the SNY Knicks report, obviously really good. Usually hits on a lot of the stuff. He brings up the fact that the Knicks contacted the Raptors about a possible OG Anunoby deal.
Oh.
So he's OG Anunoby, and it's funny because I was talking about this in my group chat earlier. I think, obviously, the way the starting lineup is played for the Knicks, Brunson, Grimes, Barrett, Randall, and Robinson, they're the highest rated starting lineup since that got formed, since Grimes came back from injury. So you don't want to break that up right now, but Grimes is hurt. And OG Anunoby, he's another one. I just said this about Grimes and McBride and Sims. He's another one of those Knicks gritty type players. Let me just read off his stats. 18.7 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists. Good shooter for the most part. He's averaging or shooting 34% from 3. Leading the league in steals at 2.5 per game. So if you can get that in the Garden, get that with Tom Thibodeau in this group, I'd love it. I don't know how much it would take to get him. Obviously, he's not a superstar, but he's still he's one of those, maybe not because we have 1A players, 1B players. He's like a 1C player. But if you put him with Barrett, Brunson, and Randall, the mid 3, why not make it the mid 4? Why not go all the way with it? I regardless, we'll see how OG does as a Raptor in tonight's game.
Who do you move?
Listen, they're going to look to move Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier, obviously. You're probably going to give up some draft capital if you want to get it done. Maybe one young player. And I got to say this. I hinted at this yesterday. With Jericho Sims playing the way he has, I think Obi Toppin's kind of expendable.
Oh, yeah. Toppin can't shoot that well.
Think about it, Corey. Don't look at me like that.
Not good defensively at times, either.
It breaks my heart, too, Corey, because I've said on this show I would not trade Obi Toppin for God. I wouldn't do it. I said that. But now, you got to look at it different.
You're wrong, man.
You got to look at it different.
For that, man. That hurt.
Listen, he is, as far as I've been a Knicks fan, like I said, I've been a Knicks fan out of the womb. I was saying bing bong right out the womb, all right? That's what I was doing. But as long as I've been watching Knicks basketball, Obi Toppin is a top 5 favorite Knick of all time for me. The way he plays, gets up and down the court, gives effort. It's not always the smart play on defense because he was never a great defender, but he gets after it. He's a Knicks type of player. I would hate to see him go, but if you're talking about building a contender, if you can get a piece like that, I'd give up Obi Toppin.
Wait, to get a piece like what?
OG Anunoby.
I don't know about that. I'm not too.
I don't know if you have to do it because the Knicks have so many draft picks. But if it came down to it, if they said we want Obi Toppin or there's no deal, I don't know.
I might, but I'm like, I just want to consider the upside of Obi still. I don't feel like I feel like still he's been in a limited role. He hasn't been able to fully, immerse himself in the offense and do what I know he's capable of. It's just like when you have a guy who has a good upside as a backup quarterback, like a Mike White, but you have a Zach Wilson in front because you paid him a lot, so you don't necessarily know what you got. I'm just saying.
It's going to be interesting, and it's all speculation right now, but the Knicks are playing good basketball. They play the Raptors tonight. Also in action tonight are the Brooklyn Nets.
Did you see the comment that Joel Embiid made about the Raptors?
Oh yeah, they don't even try to win games. It's just
they just try to shut down your star players.
Well, that's who's Nick Nurse has been. Yeah, he's a guy that he'll be damned if a star player goes off on him. But like I said, the Raptors play the Knicks, and the Nets host who the Knicks just played, the Golden State Warriors, who are 15-17, the defending champions, and now without Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins. They're on a tough second night of a back-to-back against the Nets, who have won, I believe by my count, they've won 5 or 6 straight. I'll get that number confirmed in a second. But Kory, I wanted to ask you, because you haven't really been here. You look at the Nets, obviously they have that Kyrie Irving buzzer beater the other night, this weekend. Kevin Durant, he's always going to play good basketball. Ben Simmons is giving them what he's giving them. But I just feel like something's still missing if you want to talk about the Nets being an actual contender in the East.
You looking for that guy who's going to be like that third scorer that's going to develop. You don't know if it's going to be a guy like Seth. You wanted to be a guy like Seth Curry, who could come out and try to give you something on the offensive end. But that's what you're just missing. You're just missing that third scorer. Like how when people thought they were final bound, they had a guy like James Harden to be that third outlet scorer. Even if you don't have that, you still had guys like LaMarcus Joyner who could LaMarcus Aldridge. Yeah. Sorry, LaMarcus Aldridge who could step in and kind of in certain games just go off. Right now, I don't feel like you have that guy. Royce O'Neal ain't that guy. I'm sorry. Nah,
and the Nets traded a first-round pick for him, and he's done well in his role. But again, you're not going to ask him to be the third scorer. Most nights. I don't know with the Nets. I don't know because I can see your point. I think they need a little more size, especially when you're dealing with the Celtics and the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, I still got to see them beat those teams for me to actually believe them. In terms of actually being like a championship team, because it's easy when you're facing teams like Detroit and those teams.
Yeah, but you look at a game like the Detroit, you have Kyrie go for 38, you got Kevin Durant go for 43, you got Ben Simmons go for 4 points.
There we go, Ben. Let's go.
4, 8, and 8.
That's prime Ben Simmons right there, baby.
And look, I'll always say this: how this man made it to an All-Star should be a crime against humanity.
Well, he was a good player in Philly, but then he had the free throw thing with the Hawks, and then I feel like something's just mentally off since then.
I feel like Russell Westbrook's quote, he tricked y'all, man. He tricked y'all to think he was a good player in Philly.
Just get that man a sports psychologist. He'll be fine.
I don't even know if that'll help him. But just going off that, like I said, you have those two prolific scorers going off, but nobody else is able to follow it. It's kind of the same situation that the Lakers have. But except AD's out right now. You have a guy like LeBron and AD who can get you scoring, but who else can contribute? Russell Westbrook on certain nights can, but sometimes he does miss in action. So it's just that kind of situation. Like if Ben could give you 15, like a solid 15 every night, you could be good with that. Like you'd be good with that.
The Nets have won 6 straight. They look to get 7 straight against the Warriors, who again are missing their 2 best players. And the James Wiseman thing, I got to talk about this. He looked, and I was rooting for this kid, but he looked terrible last night. He was ass last night.
Look, I'm trying to tell you, his nickname for me, my nickname for James, he's Sam Bowie. Could have had Mike, but you went with Sam Bowie. Look, you got LaMelo, who's coming off an injury. I think he's averaging 23 points, and like in the last 4 games, he scored nothing but 20s and 30 points. Like you look at the last game that they had, Charlotte, he scored about 20 in the fourth quarter. Damn man,
sounds like a future Knick to me. I don't know about you, but I love the ball in that.
I don't know about that.
All I know.
But I'm just saying, like him, like you. I'm not gonna lie. I want to say, is it Afesta Ezeli? No, that's not him. I'm trying to think of the center that's injured right now for the Warriors.
Injured for the Warriors right now, on the roster right now.
Yeah, and he was the finals center. He was the NBA final. He was the
Kevon Looney.
Kevon Looney.
Yeah.
People like always think like, okay, we need to find a next big man. He's been solid for him, and I feel like the thing is that whenever you go put him in the whenever you put Wiseman in the G League, he dominates. But when he gets up to the main roster, it's like he doesn't show improve. I think he might be traded. Like you would want to see him develop like Poole and like Kuminga, but he's just not on that trajectory.
The Warriors drafted Kuminga when they could have had Franz Wagner. They could have had Halliburton or LaMelo, but they drafted James Wiseman. So if you want to talk about a potential dynasty going up in smoke, you're going to point to those two drafts and be like, that's the reason why.
Can you imagine if Steph and Clay retired and you had Jordan Poole and LaMelo in the backcourt? Woo!
That. I don't know how you blow that, but they did.
I'm glad they did.
Yeah, that would have been scary. That would have been, whew. Thank God that's not a reality. But you brought up the Lakers. I had to get this one off.
The Lakers stink.
They were playing better, but you lose Anthony Davis. It's funny. I saw a tweet on the same day, a year apart. An injury happens that's going to keep him out for a month. So Anthony Davis is just Mr. Can't Get Right. The Lakers, they were playing a lot better with those three guys, Westbrook, James, and Davis, but right now it's just looking like another lost season.
Anthony Davis is that guy from SpongeBob in a full body cast. As soon as he falls, his body shatters. He'll never escape that Mr. Glass stigma. I'm sorry.
Every day I break my legs, and every night I break my arms.
It seems like it's just like every season, you know he's gonna have. Look, I hate to say it. Whatever voodoo the New Orleans Pelicans put on the Lakers, where they found out how to finesse that trade, and it was like, yeah, y'all might get one ring out of them, and people are always gonna subject that to the bubble ring. But the thing is, look at what the New Orleans Pelicans got back. Like you got Zion, you still managed to flip Zoe. You still have B.I., you got McCollum, and then you have a plethora of young talent there. And then if the Lakers are horrible, if the Lakers are trash, you get their first pick. And if they have a chance at getting Victor.
Don't even get me started.
Can you remember Victor? I'll be like this. I ain't gonna front. As a Knicks fan, I'm gonna say this tampering, and I'm not gonna stand for it.
If the Pelicans get Wemby, nah, I'll be defeated. Like, nah, there's no reason.
Yo, they don't even have fans like that.
Wemby, Zion, and Brandon Ingram, bro. Nah,
and CJ McCollum.
Stop. That we don't need that. The NBA fan, we just got out of one super team era with the Warriors. I don't need to see the next one coming with that being a possibility. But the Lakers think the Pelicans might benefit from that. It is what it is in the NBA. That'll do it for the basketball talk today. But it's Wednesday, fellas. We're getting into it a little late today, but it's the State of the Giants report. Kory David, Ross Levine in the house. It's funny, Kory, I know you remember on Friday, it was all doom and gloom for the Giants. Oh, there's no chance they're going to beat the Commanders.
Whoa, play. I was the one I didn't say no doom and gloom.
Nah, I'm saying like you were the one that picked the Giants. You were still rolling with them, but everyone else was.
I said Taylor Heineke will not get a pair of Jordans off of us.
You did say that. And Kayvon Thibodeau, I'm going to play this clip. Obviously, the big play in the game. We played a big part in it.
From the 10, second and 18. Thibodeau got there, got the ball out, scooped it and scored. Touchdown Giants, Kayvon Thibodeau. What a play around the edge. Got to Heineke's arm. He gets the grand slam, he gets the sack, the forced fumble, the fumble recovery, and the touchdown.
So Kayvon Thibodeau is healthy and making an impact, and the other guy I want to point to is Azeez Ojulari. Because, half a sack, forced fumble on the other side of Kayvon Thibodeau, I'll say this, the Giants have flaws. We all know this.
Oh, a lot of flaws.
A lot of flaws, especially defensively with the injuries.
Yeah, and just the linebackers just aren't good.
Yeah, but my point being, when you have pass rush that can get to the quarterback, on the Giants' defensive line, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Azeez Ojulari. If you have guys that can get to the quarterback, hell, we saw the Giants win 2 Super Bowls like that. It doesn't matter what else you have going on defense. Get guys in the offensive backfield, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, their defensive line is going to be very special for a long time. I mean, hopefully they can keep a lot of these guys. I mean, Dexter Lawrence, I hope they can keep around. I think they will. Leonard Williams, I hope they keep. But their D-line's good. They definitely could use some help in the secondary. Secondary is not great. And just to me, they're a really good offense away from being a very good to a really good team. They're like a great offense away. And like right now, we're not even like close to a great offense, but that's what we're that away. We definitely need interior line. We could use some receivers definitely, and if we can do those two things, we should be a 10-11 win team pretty consistently, along with the fact of just having decent secondary. I mean, we don't have like our best corner right now before Dory Jackson came back was Moreau. Davis Moreau. Let that sink in for just a
That's
second.
your favorite, right, Rose?
Well, he made the big play against I think it was against Jacksonville, yeah. So I definitely think they need to improve those things. And look, Joe Shane knows that. He knows once Joe Shane and Brian Dale get their fingerprints on everything, on their own players, I think they're gonna be great. And they're really good this year, which is surprising. No matter how this season ends, this was a successful, as well as you could have thought of as first year of a rebuild could be, regardless of how it ends.
And you look at the Giants, really all they have to do is just win one of their last 3 games, and you're going to have a great shot at getting in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so this win, sorry to cut you off, Corey, but this win was more so about the bright future of this team into next year, because you win a game like that, you know you're going to make the playoffs, and it was the young players that stepped up. Barkley, Jones, Thibodeau, Ojulari, like that's big time.
I mean, we just released Tay Crowder.
But what a big loss.
I know, but I feel like Landon Collins is gonna step up in that linebacker role. But I just feel like this team, I feel like you can build around it. I'm not saying Daniel Jones should be the quarterback for the Giants forever, but I'm just saying I would give him another year, see, as a transitional quarterback still. Saquon's still growing as a running back. I feel like Thibodeau, I want to see his progression. I feel like he can be a dominant pass rusher in this league. He has the capabilities. And the one thing I'll always say is when he was getting drafted, they always questioned his motor. If you look at that Washington game, he was out hustling everybody. Like, he was literally, like, there'll be plays where, like, a running back is out of the backfield going up, and you see this defensive end chasing after and making the play. It just shows you how much he's committed to the team. And you know, he reminds me of from an emotional aspect. He reminds me of Odell when he first got here. You remember when Odell, like when he would lose a game, you would see it, or like when he would win, like when they would win a game, he was emotionally invested in it. You could see Thibodeau, how emotionally invested in it he is. You know,
it's funny. I thought you were going to go the route, and that's a good comparison to Odell Beckham. But I thought you were going to go the route of Michael Strahan, because that's who Kayvon Thibodeau's really looked up to. I mean, we saw it pre-draft. He has a huge personality. He's a very outgoing guy, great with the media.
I'm not gonna lie. Look, I don't know where his career is going. He's gonna wind up in media.
He is. No, you can already see it.
Look, he did the sign off for NBC. He was like, "Back to you in the booth." I was like, I was like, this guy.
He is a gifted talent on and off the field, and obviously he's a great young player. And like he said, this is why I remember me and you, Corey, we did the post NFL draft show on that Friday last spring, and we were talking about like this kid. We talked about Sauce Gardner personality-wise being perfect for the New York Jets, a team that was really lacking personality and swag and all that. But Kayvon Thibodeau, same thing. You get a guy like that in the New York market. Honestly, if he was in Detroit or Jacksonville or somewhere like that, I mean, I feel like he wouldn't be the same. His heart or his inspiration really wouldn't be the same. He's in New York. He's in the big market. He wants to be a star. He wants to be in media. He wants to follow in Michael Strahan's footsteps. That's what we're seeing.
Like, what I want the Giants to do in this realm is I want to either start on the offensive line or start on the defensive line, but you have to build one or the other. That's where it starts. And I feel like you either go to 49ers route where you build that offensive line that defensive line out, and then like how develop it, but just develop that defensive line, because I feel like it could be something special, and you need a wide receiver too.
Absolutely. Hey, we're talking about all good stuff in New York sports right now. I mean, if you look a year back or some years back, it wasn't always like this on WHPC Sports Talk, I'm sure. But
back, but we looking real good out here.
We looking pretty good. I hope it continues. That'll do it for today's edition, the midweek Wednesday edition of WHPC Sports Talk. From Kory David, Ross Levine, I am Joshua Umahi, thanking you once again for listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.